July 4th is a day meant for celebration of independence of community of joy. But on July 4th, 2022, the streets of Highland Park, Illinois, were filled with not fireworks, but gunfire. What was meant to be peaceful, family friendly, turned into a sight of horror. And behind that horror stood a name now synonymous with the tragedy: Robert Eugene Crimo III. Welcome to Strawberry Ink. I'm your host, and today we're telling the story of the Highland Park mass shooting, the lives it stole, the justice system that followed, and the family connection that added another layer of grief and outrage. It was mid-morning when the first shots rang out at this parade. Perched on a rooftop above the parade route, Robert Crimo III opened fire with a high-powered weapon. He used it to kill and injure parade goers indiscriminately. Families, elders, kids. 7 people were killed at the scene. 64-year-old Catherine Goldstein, whose mother had passed away just days earlier, and she was preparing for the burial and funeral. 88-year-old Stephen Strauss, a grandfather and lifelong Chicagoan. 63-year-old Jacqueline Sondheim, a beloved member of her synagogue. 78-year-old Nicholas Toledo Zaragoza, who had only come to see the parade with his family. Irina and Kevin McCarthy, a young couple who died shielding their toddler. The toddler survived, but he was found wandering alone beneath the bodies of his parents. 69-year-old Eduardo Uvaldo passed away the next day after being treated at the Evanston Hospital. In total, 48 were wounded. 5 were treated at the Evanston, 26 at the Highland Park Hospital, 4 at Glenbrook, and 13 at North Shore University Health System. By September, all had been released. Their physical wounds perhaps had healed, but the emotional scars run deeper. America's birthday is not as patriotic for them as they thought it was before this. Crimo was tracked down hours after the shooting, before the fireworks show started. Law enforcement located him in a silver Honda Fit and surrounded him. He afterwards gave up and surrendered peacefully and was taken into custody without further violence. He was held at the Highland Park police station, where he confessed to the attack. After spending most of the night there, he was booked into the Lake County Jail and charged with 7 counts of first-degree murder. At his first court appearance on July 6, 2022, he appeared via Zoom before Lake County Judge Fyodor Pudge-Konjak. The judge denied him bail. Initially, Crimo was represented by high-profile Chicago attorney Tom Durkin, who later stepped down due to conflict of interest. His defense taken over by public defender Gregory Tixay. Lake County State Attorney Eric Reinhardt assigned prosecutor Ben Dillon to the case and announced it would be presented to a grand jury. The grand jury returned a sweeping indictment: 21 counts of first-degree murder, 3 for each person killed, 48 counts of attempted murder, 48 counts of aggravated battery. Prosecutor Dillon unsealed the new charges and dropped the original complaint. At his arraignment before Judge Victoria Rossetti, Crimo pleaded not guilty. Then came a change, a plea. On March 3rd, 2025, the first day of what was expected to be long and public, the trial, Robert Crimo III changed his plea. He admitted guilt in 7 murders, 25 attempted murders, and 5 battery incidents, all within the same shooting. The remaining charges were dropped as part of the deal. On April 24, 2025, Judge Rossetti handed down the sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole plus 2,400 years. Crimo is now serving his sentence at the Stateville Correctional Center in Crest Hill, Illinois. But this story does not end with the shooter. There was another name, his father, Robert Crimo Jr. In December 2022, Robert Jr. was arrested and charged with 7 counts of reckless conduct. He had sponsored his son's firearm owner's identification card back in 2019, even after his son had made violent threats and had been flagged by law enforcement. He was brought before Judge George Strickland, pleaded not guilty, and posted a $500,000 bond, one which was later reduced to $50,000. His defense was handled by George Gomez, a Chicago-based lawyer. The case went to a grand jury which upheld the charges. In November 2023, Crimo Jr. took a plea deal. He pled no contest. Judge Strickland sentenced him to 60 days in jail, 2 years of probation, and 100 hours of community service. He reported to the Lake County Jail on November 15th that year, but he served just 27 days, as he was released early for good behavior. His community service and probation were completed by the end of 2024. Still pending today is a civil lawsuit filed by victims' families. It targets Smith & Wesson, the manufacturer of the weapon used, along with Bud's Gun Shop, Red Dot Arms, and Robert Crimo Jr. The funerals were many and heavy. Catherine Goldstein and her mother had a private visitation and cremation on July 14th at the Mitzvah Memorial in Northbrook. Stephen Strauss's service took place on July 8th at the Jewish Reconstructionist Congregation in Evanston. He too was cremated, just like Catherine and her mother. Their families changed their minds and chose to not have them be buried. Jackie's son Hein was memorialized at the North Shore Congregation Israel in Glencoe. Nicholas Toledo Zaragoza's mass was held at the Emmanuel Baptist Church in Waukegan before his body was returned to Mexico, where he was from. There he was buried at the cemetery of Mexico City. Kevin and Irina McCarthy were laid to rest at the Memorial Park Cemetery in Skokie. Eduardo Valdo's funeral was held in Waukegan, and burial took place at the Ascension Catholic Cemetery in Libertyville. Each name, each life is more than a statistic. Each had a story, a family, a future that was stolen. Well, these stories are not easy, but they are necessary to tell and to remember, to demand better, to honor those who can no longer speak for themselves. This has been Strawberry Ink. Stay safe, stay aware, and we remember the names behind the headlines and those who served for our country so we could be free, so we could go out and eat with friends without having to hide from any missile. Knock on wood. Happy 4th of July, you all. Have a great Independence Day. I hope you're having fun. Goodbye.